live at a normal hour, 8 o'clock. Last time you saw me, it was 3:30 in the morning, if you saw me. And a lot of you did. We had an enormous audience, much bigger than we thought, to watch it live. And then it doubled, maybe tripled on, I don't know, let's call it a podcast, right? A reenactment of the live on tape, right? And it should be. It was one of the most beautiful things I ever covered. And I don't know, I may be wrong. If I'm proven wrong, I will be very unhappy. But I believe this will be a historic pope. He's a beautiful man. And I'm even going to say I may disagree with him. But he may be right. Usually they turn out to be the popes and the bishops. But in any event, let's begin with another presumed cleric, a man who takes on the all of the pomposity of the worst kinds of clerics, and then all historically of the dishonesty we know that can happen with that. And that's James Cardinal Comey. I am forever apologetic for the fact that I hired him for the U.S. Attorney's Office. I had no idea at the time. I was probably making the worst decision I ever made, starting him off on his career of helping to destroy my beautiful country. He is a very bad man. I don't know if he knows why he's a very bad man. He probably doesn't. It's confused in a whole panorama of psychological crap that I couldn't possibly work my way through. All I can do is look at the reactions. I hired him. He worked very, very hard and diligently. He was not exceptional. He was not one of my 5, 10 superstars who could do anything. It wasn't a difficult assistant U.S. attorney. He wasn't inadequate. He was excellent second-level assistant U.S. attorney. Maybe a little better, depending on how much attention you pay to him. I didn't pay that much attention to him. He came on rather late. The first time I really focused on him is when he refused to sign I imagine it was a FISA warrant. Ironic, because he perjured himself on a FISA warrant years later. That would have allowed some of the bombing that was necessary for the Afghan war. And he wanted to make sure that his boss, I don't know if he was the deputy or associate attorney general at the time. He had moved up from being U.S. attorney. He wanted to make sure that his boss, who was in the hospital, having some kind of very significant surgery, was on the hook for it. So instead of signing it, he made a big thing of it, that he would resign if he had to sign it. And a whole bunch of his subordinate acolytes, which I wish I had noted and written down, because it could have saved America a tremendous amount of damage, was the future head of the FBI. Remember who that was? The head of the FBI? Remember? Who was the head of the FBI?
What year are we talking?
Oh, under Trump.
At one point, it was James Cardinal Comey.
No. Who was the other?
Not for a long.
Who replaced?
The first replacement.
Who replaced James? Come on, we all know who he is. I want you to tell me who it is.
Yeah, Trump's FBI director. Oh my!
Come on.
I forgot that it was a Trump pick. Christopher Wray.
That's Christopher Wray. Christopher Wray worked for James Cardinal Comey when James Cardinal Comey pulled what I considered the first thing that told me he was a phony son of a bitch. And you know what it was? When he wouldn't sign the order to do the surveillance that was necessary for her to proceed in Afghanistan. And he wanted to make sure Ashcroft's signature was on it. And if it wasn't, he was going to resign. And that little bastard was going to resign too. You got to go along with him like he's connected to his backside. Well, Ashcroft signed it because Ashcroft's a man and an American. First time I said to myself, gee, did I make a mistake with that guy, Comey? Then he reemerges as the head of the FBI. God, he's not, that I knew he's not ready for. I said, what are you, crazy? This guy is the head of the FBI. Then he fixes the Hillary case for sure. I'm not even going to go through. Someday we'll do everything if I haven't done it on my podcast already. He deliberately, dishonestly, corruptly fixes the Hillary case. Writes the report 3 months before he interviews it. Do you need to know anything else? Yeah, they say he helped elect Trump because he got scared at the end and backed off it. But that's only because he elected her originally by letting her off the hook. This is disgusting what this man has done. And he's so pompous about it. This is why I call him James Cardinal Comey. I don't even recognize the man that I hired. I see like the picture of Dorian Gray there.
And this is Comey just earlier this evening in his first interview with Nicole Wallace on MSNBC.
So what's he involved in now?
Political firestorm.
Let's get you right up to now. We won't even cover all the other ways he tried to frame, destroy, dishonestly attack Donald Trump. He was walking along the beach a couple of days ago in the middle of the day. Okay, maybe he's on vacation. A lot of people doubt that he was. Why is he walking along? He could be on vacation. Okay. And he sees out of nowhere a conglomeration of stones, gold and black, that say beautifully, beautifully arranged, as if no one ever stepped on them. 8, get me right now, boys. 8-6. Little separation, 4-7.
Yes, sir.
Now, please, without a great deal of explanation, just accept the fact that James Comey, when he was in my office, reviewed mafia tapes. So these are specific tapes that he reviewed for cases he had, in which the mafia used that expression, 8-6 them, for whacking people. He did it in two specific cases. There are records of his reviewing those. 8-6 is back in the 80s, so it has a long history, was the expression that the mafia used for whacking somebody. We're going to 6 them, we're going to 8-6 them. We're going to 6 them, we're going to 8-6 them. We're going to 6 them, we're going to 8-6 them. That's a hell of a combination. Somebody went way out of their way to put that in front of James Comey. And he saw it. Or he put it there.
Yeah.
And he took a picture of it, a nice picture.
And even if he didn't put it there himself, publishing it in this manner on his platform is like the bigger.
I posted earlier a picture of some shells I saw today on a beach walk, which I assume were a political message. Wait a second. Stop right there. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I want to tell you that James Comey from the very beginning knew this was a message to kill him. Because, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, if you saw that, would you see that as a political message? In the middle of the beach, here you are, big giant beach.
Well, if a message about killing the president.
Big giant beach. Sun coming down on you. Women walking around in bikinis, men walking around, whatever. But let's assume you're a man. Well, we have James Cardinal Comey. Let's withdraw that part. Let's just assume you're a human. You just happen to see that? That's awful small on a big beach. That's really hard to see. You're just to be as likely to step on it as see it. It's not exactly like it's going like this to you. It's on a big beach, 8-6 dash or separation 4-7. Now, how many of you would even know what the hell that meant? But suppose you were a mafia prosecutor in the 1980s under Rudy Giuliani, and you knew that 6'em, 8-6'em was an expression the mafia used for. Now, we know who 4-7 is. That's easy, right? That's Donald J. Trump, the man who fired Comey. So whether he put it there, which I am 80% sure he did, I do not believe somebody put it there for him. And out of the big beach, he saw it. But let's assume he did, or he put it there. And he admits he knows it has political implications. He then published it. So the political implications are clear as hell if he goes back to his training, right? 86 means, oh, whack 'em. 47 means Trump, oh, whack 'em. Which unsuccessfully they've all attempted to do several times, which I wouldn't be surprised if he's part of. Because I do not buy the fact that these were, given the fact the FBI hasn't even concluded its investigation, I got a pretty good sense they can't conclude that it's without enormous complications. So he sees that, he knows it has political implications, and he publishes it. Has anybody asked him yet? I know he's a prince of the dark, satanic Roman Catholic Church. Has anybody questioned him as to why did he think it was a political message? And what would the political message be other than kill Trump? So I know that nobody concentrates on this but me, which is why I think I'm the only one that brings the American people what they need to know. But why? And you know, they're now the left wing, you better keep that carefully. You see that message we have there? Keep it carefully about political. They're going to get rid of that. That's very damning. When you look at 8647, if you are a neophyte, if you're innocent of the meaning of 86, maybe you're even innocent of the meaning of 47, right?
So you're just kind of slow, generally.
No. You like baseball instead of all this political shit.
Okay.
You don't have to be slow. You can be a brilliant astronomer or something.
Who's 47 like on the Yankees? Is there a 47?
Yeah, I mean, come on, let's face it. Not everybody follows this like we do. But in any event, what would there be? Doesn't Comey have to describe to us before we can at all even think about letting him off the hook? What political implication did he think it had other than kill Trump?
Right. That's what I'm. Right. That's my first.
What's the political implication? 8647.
That was my first point.
Doesn't he owe us an explanation of that?
That's right. When he says he knows the political message, but so if you went up to someone and said 8647, yeah, either they don't know what it means, but if they understood it was a political message, that means they understand.
He assumed it was a political message. Okay, Comey, you effing liar. What was the political message?
There's only one. If you show someone,
he didn't realize some folks associate that message with violence. It never occurred to me, but I oppose violence of any kind. So I took the picture. But what was the political message? Now, before he can be fully investigated, we need either an explanation of that political message, or we need him to take a Fifth Amendment on the political message. If he were to answer, it would be incriminating. Do you understand what I'm saying? I mean, I know some of these points are very esoteric, but they're enormously important. This is a job. Please don't let me do this. I hate it when I do it. This is a job that I did better than anyone else. And this is why I did it better than anyone else. No one has even focused on what I'm telling you.
Well,
It's almost like if you didn't focus on it, I'd fire you if you work for me. The man saw that. I'm going to take him at his word now, right? The big, tall jackass is walking along. Cardinal Comey's walking along the beach. And people say, well, why is he walking along the beach? I don't really, who knows? Maybe it was a day off. He's walking along the beach. Somehow, out of the big beach, I like to know which beach, by the way. Somehow, out of the big beach, he sees these little things down there. These are pretty little, by the way. Show them again. I don't know. You're going to notice that or step on it. Ted, it's only chance that you would notice it, right?
right,
Instead of being looking up, you'd have to be looking down.
right.
I guess, but this is what's going to make him a cardinal. You or I would be looking up at the bikinis.
Yeah.
He's looking down at the sand.
right.
So he's looking down at the sand, and he sees 8647. Or he put it there. Is that the more likely possibility? I tend to think it is, but I'm going to go along with his story. He sees 8647. He says to himself, there's a political message there. That's a political message. But I wouldn't put out if it was violence. So he's putting out a political message. Okay, Comey, what is it? What is the political message you're putting out? Would the American media get damn disciplined enough to ask that?
And that's what we asked. That's what we asked.
And with
Friday.
the prosecutors now in the Trump administration who have disappointed me on their pursuit of these people, focus in and find out what's the political message you saw. Don't squirm away, creep. You said it was a political message. What was the political message from 8647? Let's read it again. I posted earlier a picture of some shells I saw today on a beach walk, which I assumed were a political message. We are entitled to an answer or the Fifth Amendment, my friend, in front of a grand jury. What is the political message you assumed you were conveying? Because if you don't have a good information, if you don't have a good explanation, the political message you were conveying is a threat on the life of the 47th president of the United States. And for that, you finally go to jail, where you have belonged for about 5 years.
Well, he went on his first exclusive interview with NBC.
Of course, with a station that has about 15 people that should be in jail.
Let's see his response.
Yeah, tough questioning.
Of a political firestorm.
Yeah, for walking on the beach with my wife. So I don't know how we ended up here. It never occurred to me that it was any kind of controversial thing, but that's the time we live in.
So take me back to the walk on the beach.
We were walking on the beach. We went to the beach to prepare for this week, which was the launch of my book, and to think about the book and to prepare to answer questions about it. And we were walking back towards the road, and we saw in the sand someone had arranged shells with numbers. And Patrice, my wife, said, why would someone put an address in the sand? And I said, I don't know. And we stood over it, and I said, I think it's some kind of like political message. And she said, 86, when I was a server, she did a lot of work in restaurants, meant to remove an item from the menu when you ran out of ingredients. And I said, well, to me, as a kid, it always meant to leave a place, to ditch a place. I said, that's really clever. So then she said, you should take a picture of that. And I did. And I posted it on my Instagram account and thought nothing more of it until I heard through her that people were saying it was some sort of a call for assassination, which is crazy. But I took it down. Even if I think it's crazy, I don't want to be associated with violence of any kind.
Now, he has another video here where he responds to being under investigation.
What did she say? What did he say? Let's go back on that. What did he say his wife's interpretation of that was? Can we go back on that, please?
Mhm.
This is how you're going to determine whether
Yeah,
to
for
prosecute.
walking on the beach with my wife. So I don't know how we ended up here. It never occurred to me that it was any kind of controversial thing, but that's the time we live in.
So take me back to the walk on the beach.
We were walking on the beach. We went to the beach to prepare for this week, which was the launch of my book, and to think about the book and to prepare to answer questions about it. And we were walking back towards the road, and we saw in the sand someone had arranged shells with numbers. And Patrice, my wife, said, "Why would someone put an address in the sand?" And I said, "I don't know." And we stood over it, and I said, "I think it's some kind of like political message." And she said, 86, when I was a server, she did a lot of work in restaurants, meant to remove an item from the menu when you ran out of ingredients. And I said, well, to me, as a kid, it always meant to leave a place, to ditch a place. I said, that's really clever. So then she said, you should take a picture of that. And I did. And I posted it on my Instagram account and thought nothing more of it until I heard through her that people were saying it was some sort of a call for assassination, which is crazy. But I took it down. Even if I think it's crazy, I don't want to be associated with violence.
So what was his wife's explanation?
Her explanation was that she was a server, and when to 86 something means to get rid of it. Let me get the exact words though.
Walking back towards the road, and we saw in the sand someone had arranged shells with numbers. And Patrice, my wife, said, "Why would someone put an address in the sand?" And I said, "I don't know." And we stood over it, and I said, I think it's some kind of like political message. And she said, 86, when I was a server, she did a lot of work in restaurants, meant to remove an item from the menu when you ran out of ingredients. And I said, well, to me, as a kid,
from the menu when you ran out of ingredients.
Okay, go ahead.
and thought nothing more of it until I heard through her that
let's go
to
back.
remove an item from the menu when you ran out of ingredients. And I said, well, to me, as a kid, it always meant to leave a place, to ditch a place. I said, that's really clever.
To leave a place, to ditch a place.
Good.
So then she said, you should take a picture of that. And I did. And I posted it on my Instagram account and thought nothing more of it until I heard through her that people were saying it was some sort of a call for assassination, which is crazy, but like political message. I don't know. And we stood over it, and I said, I think it's some kind of like political message.
So he starts off by thinking it was an address. Remember?
A what?
An address.
Your questions about it.
Well,
And we were
here
walking
are
back
the
towards
things
the
that
road, and
incriminate
we
him,
saw
right?
in the sand someone had
First
arranged
of all,
shell.
his original impression is that it's a political message. What political message? He then republishes the political message. What political message is he republishing? He's not very clear about that. He does give us a few hints. He says his wife thought it meant to remove an item from the menu. So the political message then would be to remove President Trump from the menu. Exactly how do we remove President Trump from the menu? Given the fact that any threat on the president that's at all ambiguous is viewed as suspicious, he should be investigated for that. The second is he interpreted 86 as to leave a place or to ditch a place. So his interpretation would have been to ditch Trump. Only a couple of ways you can ditch Trump, one of which is assassination. You have to understand that the statute protecting the president requires the Secret Service to construe every ambiguous statement that possibly could lead to violence against the president as not being ambiguous until it's explained. So if this man is not put under investigation, we still have the two-tiered system of justice we've always had. Second, it's important to go back into his prior messages and see how often he did this. Is this something on his mind? Is he connected with the two assassination attempts? Now, why would you reject that just because he's James Cardinal Comey? Actually, he's not. He's just a jackass that I hired, unfortunately, and for which I am exceedingly guilty. My only relief is I tell the president when he gives me a about it, you hired Michael Cohen. We all make mistakes. Boy, did I make a mistake. Now, I can tell you one thing about what he just said. I will guarantee this. I don't know what the truth is. Everything he just said is a lie. Not capable of telling the truth. I do not know what the truth is yet. I'll get to it. But everything that little bastard said is a lie right now.
He goes on further with Nicole Wallace. Let's play a
Oh,
little bit more
great.
of this.
Nicole Wallace is completely out of breath in mind. She's got a husband who prays every day that he's rid of her.
You've been under investigation. I don't know if people like Miles Taylor and Chris Krebs ever have. There are a whole lot of people being disappeared from the streets for their political speech around the war in Gaza. I mean, what is it like to be under investigation, and how do people withstand that if that is indeed what's being ushered in?
It's hard. It gets easier the more times you do it. Unfortunately, I have experience. But you have to do two things at the same time that seem contradictory. You have to be clear-eyed about the threat to you, if you're being threatened with physical violence or you're being threatened with an investigation, and to your family. You have to take prudent steps to protect yourself. But you have to do something else that's hard. You can't overstate the threat. Right? When you're being targeted, there's a tendency to see the boogeyman under every bed that you sit on. You can't give them that space in your head, because in some contexts, that's their goal, is to freak you out. And so what I advise people to do is, look, the rule of law is still our saving grace. We have a judiciary in this country that will support the truth. Take solace in that. Take prudent steps, but don't freak out. These people are not good enough for you to be freaked out about. Protect yourself. Be measured about the effect the threat has on you, and know that you're going to be okay.
I just look at that and I say, how didn't I see that 40 years ago, 30 years ago? What a phony. The damage that man singularly has done to this country is incalculable. The last one is, what a load of crap. He's walking along. He just happens to see this. It's a political message. It doesn't define what kind of political message. And he puts it out. He thinks the 80s, his wife thinks the 86 means to remove it from the menu. He believes it means to ditch a place. I don't know, that comes pretty close to take off the menu Donald Trump. Ditch Donald Trump. Aren't we there? Hasn't he just admitted it? Or are we going to let him off the hook again because he's with the insane Nicole Gardner, whose husband is praised every night that he got rid of her? I don't know. Do we need anything more? This is the guy who lied on the Pfizer application 4 times. He told us that Christopher Steele was verified. And then he told us that he never verified Christopher Steele. Now, he did it 4 times in various stages of not only not verifying him, but proving that what he said was untrue. We let that slip by. Do you know that perjury on a Pfizer warrant should be treated pretty close to murder? Because Pfizer warrants, not fire, Pfizer warrants are singular. You don't get to review them. I treated them as sacred. I taught Joe DeGeneres, Jeff Harris, and many others to treat it that way. From the moment he said that, I said to myself, God, please forgive me for hiring him. You have no idea. I feel tremendous guilt for hiring that guy. Only way I get out of it is jokingly, when Trump likes to needle me with it, I say, well, you hired Michael Dowd.
Cohen.
Oh, Michael Cohen. Oh, Michael Dowd is wonderful. You should have hired Michael Dowd. He's like the greatest guy that ever lived. You want an honest man? Absolutely honest man. You want just like a complete, straight interpretation. I'm going to put Michael on. He'll just read all this and tell you, well, damn it, this means, damn it, this means. All he does is use his brilliant brain to tell you, well, never mind. Yes, you're right. Michael the Rat Cohen, who slinks around New York because, unfortunately, as Mayor Adams knows, there were a lot of rats in New York. When he first became mayor, he thought they were rodents. Now he knows they're humans. We'll be right back. U.S. Army Major Scott Smiley paid a high price serving our nation. Scott was leading his platoon in Iraq when a blast sent shrapnel through his eyes, leaving him blind and temporarily paralyzed. Scott would become the first blind active duty military officer before medically retiring years later. Thanks to friends like you, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation gave Scott and his family a mortgage-free, specially adapted smart home. Show your support for America's heroes now. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers.
Are you ready for some action?
I'm ready for action.
Get the Elite TV plan only through the portal. 218 channels, and it's only $69.95 a month.
Wow.
Including your free portal.
That's cheaper than everyone else.
Your favorite sports, movies, news,
Wow.
even daytime dramas. We're talking about ESPN, OAN, Newsmax,
Wow.
channels you can't get anymore in certain areas.
Compared to the competition, this is a way better deal.
Endless selection. Not to mention all the free music channels. There's over 700 premium and classic movies all ready to go.
Wow.
Plus, they got catch-up TV that allows you to go back and watch what you've missed or want to watch again. Cut your cable in half and get twice as much for free.
Way more channels for half the cost.
After the first year, the subscription then drops to $57.95 monthly,
Wow.
where you change or upgrade anytime. Go to QUXNow.com and get yours today. Use promo code RUDY. Act fast.
Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep grain, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because they like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans, no Robusto, all Arabica. They're gonna go into the roaster and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's coffee.
Welcome back. This is Rudy Giuliani, America's Mayor Live. And we're live from Palm Beach, but who knows? It's going on all over the world, right? One never knows with Trump. I mean, it's unbelievable, unbelievable. So let's take a look at the big bill. How's the big bill doing? Hard to say, right? Some Republicans are attacking it. Some aren't. Now, I'm gonna confess to you a prejudice, okay? We all have it, but none of us confess it. You know, like all of these left-wing reporters, they have a real prejudice against Trump. Well, my prejudice on this big bill is a Reagan prejudice, which is a good deal of what you want is better than nothing that you want. So I see it as Let's come up with a compromise. We don't own the entire Senate. We don't own the entire House. We do own the presidency. That entitles us to a little bit more than they get. But by the margin by which we won in a democracy, it doesn't entitle us to everything. So let's compromise a little so we get something really good through. Now, what's really good about this? How do we put this in order of priority? The tax cuts continued are paramount. They revived our last economy. They will boom this present economy with the restrictions being made on regulations, which are greater than that. If we lose a few here or there, it isn't going to make a difference. And we got to focus on continuing to govern, because we've changed this country already, where it's like someone said to me when I become mayor of New York, I have to turn around the ship of state. And I did, but I didn't do it all at once. I did it like this. Finally. So we got to make a nice big. Trump has already moved it, and maybe I'll do some kind of a symbolic chart on that, because it's hard to say unless we analyze it really quickly. So here's the ship of state heading to communism, right? So we got to turn it back to republic, democracy, capitalism, free enterprise, everything. Okay, it's going that way. So what has he done really quickly? He's done this. Maybe this. Now they're trying to move it back. So let's see how much we can get done in this bill. And Congressman Roy, I know you're very opposed to the president. God Almighty, you said some horrible things about him. And, he doesn't remember. It's like, your wife always remembers the attacks on you better than they do. Well, I'm not a wife, but I know Melania remembers all the horrible things you called our president.
You're a pal.
And my friend Ted does, for sure.
Oh,
we've got them all written down.
We've got them.
You were a shit to the president.
There's one thing
you were overboard with Governor DeSantis, who I happen to admire tremendously. But I didn't make the ridiculously emotional, intellectual error of ever thinking he would be president, because I'm a lot smarter than you are. Would you accept that? Would you accept my advice because I'm smarter than you are? And because I've been in government longer than you are? And I've accomplished so much more than you that it isn't even a comparison. All you've accomplished is a nice beard and a big mouth. So, would you just effing shut up? You add nothing to this debate because you add no experience to it. You add just your big mouth and your attempt to be important. So he's a holdout. Ralph Norman of South Carolina, Josh Brescian of Oklahoma, and Andrew Clyde of Georgia. Now, honestly, I've never heard of them. They may have accomplished big things in their life, but they're so big that none of us have ever heard of them. So they're standing in the way.
Well, no, the budget committee, as of yesterday, has been approved.
Well, I know, but they're standing in the way of the big compromises that are needed.
And who knows what's going on behind the scenes, but it seems like we actually do have a little bit more momentum following that committee vote. And we can negotiate. I mean,
well, I hopefully we're going to get there. So their problem is that the bill as written front loads tax cuts and puts off spending cuts for a bit. Maybe it's because we need tax cuts right now more than we need spending cuts. Do we need spending cuts long term? Yes. Do we need tax cuts to the economy? Yes.
Yeah, the growth that comes from those
Now,
reduced
this
taxes
is going to
makes it easy.
this is going to require you lazy bastards to get reelected. But but you got to get what has to be done done. And the president wants it to his desk July 4th. I'm sorry, Chip. Who are the rest of these
The losers.
I mean, come on. Tell me what Ralph Norman ever did.
I was just gonna say,
What did he do? Tell me what Ralph. Did he ever build any like tremendous buildings in Manhattan?
Well, I can't. We do know him from somewhere.
We do not know John Breachin, do we?
I've not heard of John.
He's accomplished a lot, right? So we don't know it. And Andrew Clyde.
I've not heard of him. He must be-
Would they defer to Donald J. Trump, who might know a little more about the economy than they do?
Right. So they're holdouts and
The people in their district think they do.
yeah. Well, we'll have to see where these.
well, let's get them off those committees. What the heck are they doing there?
So Trump is saying, get the tax cuts out there. Do some of the spending cuts, but you can't do all of them. And the tax cuts will produce the spending cuts if it works right.
Well, it'll produce enough growth and revenue to make the spending cuts a lot more manageable. Art Laffer, your old colleague, knows about that one.
Well, Trump wants to build by July 4th. Why don't you just listen to him? He's the head of the party. He deserves it. Just do it. Stop trying to make yourself famous. You know what you're doing, Chip Roy? I saw you all during the time you were screwing up the speaker. I saw you when you were supporting DeSantis, like Trump was a monster. See, I'm an elephant. I've been a Republican a much longer time than Trump. I remember you.
Yes.
And I will never forget you.
Yes.
So watch yourself. I don't know where you're coming from, but that stuff for DeSantis against Trump, that was over the top. Not nice for a president who had been one of our greatest presidents ever. So Trump wants to build by July 4th. Damn it. If you have to give up every one of the things you believe in, get it to him by July 4th. You know why, Chip? He's a lot smarter than you are and a hell of a lot more accomplished. So am I.
Let's go even earlier, right? Like let's have it ready to sign, like ready, locked and loaded by July 4th.
They're all fighting over the state and local tax deduction. All the frightened people for re-election in my state, they're urinating in their pants without diapers, and it's terrible. He's giving you a nice big chunk of 30 grand. Will you take it? That affects most of the middle class. Just take it and shut up.
Right.
This is how you do a bill. I watched Reagan do it. Everybody gets a little, they don't get all they want. Let's get it done by July 4th so our economy can take off. The people in New York are way off base. They want to raise it to the top. It's not right. You know what SALT means? SALT means can you deduct the state and local taxes that you pay to the state? Now, if we let you do that, if you live in a left-wing, crazy communist state like New York or New Jersey or California or Illinois, if you live in one of those places, or Massachusetts, where they tax you to the point where your joint tax rate goes over 50%, which I consider being an official declaration of being a socialist communist economy, you get a break because of what they're doing to you. And that puts no pressure on the state to stop that. or for you to move out of that damn place, which is the only thing that's going to be done to change them. So you want to stay there, maybe you should have to bear that. I don't agree with, and look, I was affected by it. And I didn't agree with changing it by 1 penny. I got only $10,000 on it. Now they want to move it to $30,000. I don't even agree with that. But I'm willing to do it to get a bill passed. So will you take it and shut up? You're cheating the rest of the country anyway. Your state should not be charging such high taxes because most of it is going to corruption, not to anything decent. There's nothing decent that New York does that Florida doesn't do, except it has 2.5 times the spending. Well, there's a big debate about who won the tariff battle between the U.S. and China for the 90-day period. And of course, all the lefties say China won, except Xi Jinping does not look very happy that he won. The guy who backed off with Xi Jinping, he secretly asked for the meeting. They were desperate. They needed relief. He gave them 90-day relief. But look at the difference in the 90-day basic tariff. They charge us 10% on what we send to China. And we charge them 30% for what they send to America. How can you have the intellectual audacity or mendacity to say that that's an equal, that's 3-to-1 difference between the two countries? Plus, we maintain our very high tariffs on steel, aluminum, and cars. So you can't bring any cars in China. So you tell me how is this a China victory? I don't understand it. All I can tell you is just one more example of why you have to listen to us, because nobody else will analyze it this way, because they're bought and paid for either by money or intellectual conquer by the Chinese. Also, there's a great recognition with that extra 20% tax of something pointed out in this wonderful article in the New York Post Sunday by Stephen W. Mosher. I want you to read every word of this. I want you to listen to every word of this, please. China could have shut down the fentanyl trade with the Mexican cartels at any time. Just like they could have cut down the sending of Chinese to the America, to Italy, to Germany, to England, to Africa, to spread the deadly Chinese Wuhan virus. And they did it on purpose to kill you. So you would die in roughly the same proportions that they did, and more importantly, suffer the same economic consequences that they did. They murdered you for that purpose, and they murdered close to 1 million of our people, American people, for that purpose. But they murdered you in Italy, in Germany, in France, in England, in Brazil, in all the countries still sucking up to them because you are stupid, brainwashed, moronic, immoral Marxists. Will you go to Fatima and ask Our Lady of Fatima to clean out your polluted brain? Well, we're going to come back in a short while. We're going to take a look at the pros and cons on how people have viewed this trip to the Middle East. But we're going to do it from the point of view of people who love Donald Trump, who have see pro and cons, not the ridiculous, silly, flipping nuts Marxist terrorists who constantly criticize him. Let's take a short break, Ted.
Are you ready for some action?
I'm ready for action.
Get the Elite TV plan only through the portal. 218 channels, and it's only $69.95 a month,
Wow.
including your free portal.
That's cheaper than everyone else.
Your favorite sports, movies, news,
Wow.
even daytime dramas. We're talking about ESPN, OAN, Newsmax, channels you can't get anymore in certain areas.
Compared to the competition, this is a way better deal.
Endless selection. Not to mention all the free music channels. There's over 700 premium and classic movies all ready to go.
Wow.
Plus, they got catch-up TV that allows you to go back and watch what you've missed or want to watch again. Cut your cable in half and get twice as much for free.
Way more channels for half the cost.
After the first year, the subscription then drops to $57.95 monthly,
Wow.
where you change or upgrade anytime. Go to QUXNow.com and get yours today. Use promo code RUDY. Act fast.
Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep grain, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because they like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans, no Robusto, all Arabica. They're gonna go into the roaster and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's coffee.
Welcome back to Rudy Giuliani live from Palm Beach, and we were quite shocked. Was it last night or tonight or this morning that we found out that Joe Biden is suffering from a very, very late stage of prostate cancer? Well, in any event, this is a disease that I know. This is a disease that tragically I know quite a bit about because I studied it, because I had it. My father died of it very, very painfully at a time in which people knew very little about it. And from the point of view of just human being Rudolph Giuliani to human being Joe Biden, you just have my sympathy. You have my prayers for you and your family. I hope you survive it. I hope you get cured of it. I hope if you don't get cured of it, you get the maximum amount of time without pain and suffering, so that in the loving embrace of your family, you can go to eternity with support. I have nothing but kindness and decency and hope for you. But I can separate that from an analysis that I have to make as an American citizen, because it does tie in, unfortunately, very, very much with the way in which you completely disguised and lied about, in a way that was close to treasonous, your incapacity, mental incapacity for 4 or 5 years to handle the office of President of the United States. And it showed in the consequences as a result of the fact that I don't know what to describe you as: inadequate, intellectually inadequate, cognitively impaired, senile. You weren't capable of handling the responsibilities of the most important and most awesome role in the world, and you lied to us about it. And you were surrounded by a whole group of people who lied to us about it, all of whom should now be prosecuted so it never happens again. And if they're not, it will be a failing of the Trump administration to be as courageous as it should be on behalf of America. So now this issue of your a very, very advanced prostate disease becomes one that we just can't pass over because we want to be nice to you. I hope you survive it. I don't want to see you die, Joe. I'm not even sure I want to see you punished just to be punished. I want your crimes acknowledged so they don't happen again to my great country. Because you and your life are not worth this great country. None of us are. And a phony narrative of your life is not worth the destruction of our freedom. So if you can do this, I'm going to separate the prayers that I've already said for you, that you have a form of, although it seems rather difficult given what's been revealed, a form of prostate cancer that can be treated and that will give you the maximum number of years in the embrace of your loving family. I hope that for you. That isn't the punishment I want for you. It's not up to me to have punishment for you. It's up to me to reveal what you did to disgrace and destroy the democracy and the rule of law that we have in America. And no president has done more than you have. It appears as if you were the most corrupt president we've ever had. You took massive amounts of money from any number of countries as bribes, certainly from Ukraine. Without any doubt, the 3.5 million from Russia. You've never been required to explain it, and it looks like you're going to escape without ever being held accountable for it, which is bad because it will make it possible for others equally greedy and equally amoral to do the same things that you have done. But there is a question, and it takes courage to ask this question in light of the massive sympathy for you, which on a human level is perfectly normal. My father had this stage of cancer and he died a horrible death. I was lucky I caught it at a much earlier age and so far 23 years without it. But I don't say this lightly. What you did has to be exposed. And the mere fact that you may escape us by dying of prostate cancer can't stop us, because this could happen to us again. We could get another Joe Biden or another Barack Obama who act as the chief financiers of the biggest purveyor of terrorism in the world, the regime of terror, the Ayatollah. You two gave the most money to the Ayatollah than any country in the world. There's never been an explanation of that evil. Maybe there will be if you show up there, but we don't get to hear that. So this shouldn't stop anyone with any kind of false sympathy for the most corrupt president in our history. How is it that all of a sudden, out of the blue, advanced stage prostate cancer shows up in your body with a Gleason score of 9, which is right below 10, which is the maximum, with a 5 in terms of the category of it, which is deadly. And you've been examined over and over again with protestations from your doctor, who did seem to be like a clown in a carnival when he would say how healthy you were, and you were walking around in different directions and falling down steps going up, which I never saw anybody fall down steps going up. while you were telling us how much you loved having little children touch the sides of your legs. This is 4 years ago. Your prostitute doctor was telling us how perfectly healthy you were. There was not a single objective American who believed your prostitute doctor. But did he not take tests for prostate cancer? I mean, and nowadays there's no responsible doctor after the age of 40 or 50 that won't give a man a prostate test every time he sees him. He may, in fact, want to also do a digital rectal exam. Now, you may have been afraid of that, Joe, which sure shows that, unlike your son, you could never have served in the military. Because if that's going to freak you out, any kind of torture is going to freak you out also. But if you don't have the balls to take that, well, still the PSA test can be administered without it. So what was your base PSA? You never disclosed that. It is beyond credulity to think that you just emerged with the worst kind of prostate cancer when it's one of the slowest forming types of cancer. I could have the prostate cancer you have if 26 years ago or 25 years ago, it wasn't detected in my body as a much lower level of cancer and cured. And when I was mayor, I would put out my prostate tests to show that it didn't come back. People are entitled to know that. When you're president, mayor, governor, you're not your own person, except you were. You're your own little crook. You hid everything. You're completely non-transparent. America is unbelievably overwhelmed by how transparent Trump is, because he is, and because he follows the most hidden, covert president that acts like he's a guilty criminal by hiding so much. Well, I happen to know you were, but everybody else doesn't. So, despite the fact that we may want to sympathize with you, which we will, and somehow we can separate our praying for your continued existence, we want to know all the facts. You shouldn't be spared a damn thing. First thing that should be disclosed is when's the last PSA test you took, and what did it show? And what about your doctor, who's always seemed like a massive bullshit artist? What about your doctor? Did he not give you such tests? Is he that bad a doctor? In which case, maybe he should resign and not take care of anybody else. You're not giving this old bastard a PSA test? What's wrong with you? So let's all stop taking the public good and destroying it so that we can suck up to Joe Biden. He certainly isn't worthy of it. Nobody is. Well, I'm going to conclude at an earlier stage than usual, because I'm going to recommend that you go to Dr. Maria and you watch her tonight
on Lindell TV.
You got it. Because you're going to really, really enjoy it. And we've already done massive television, probably too much. People were annoyed with us after all of our coverage.
Oh, that
but
was
if you
fun.
haven't seen our coverage of the Pope's inauguration, I would ask you to go to it tonight or tomorrow, where it will be on X. Are we going to put it on the special subscription channel too, Ted?
We can.
Well, let's do that. We're going to.
I don't know if you can put the whole thing on there.
Well, why can't we?
Well, we have some extra content too that we have some extra
Well,
content.
let's try
that
to
we can
put the
up
whole
more.
thing on there. We're going to try. But right now, if they would like to see, like later tonight or tomorrow morning, or if they can't sleep, it puts you to sleep. The Gregorian chant is wonderful for sleeping. How would they do that?
They just go to X Yeah, and it's in your profile on X.
So you just go on X and look for, and what do they put on X? That's me right there.
Just go scroll back on your account just to Sunday morning or YouTube or Rumble and scroll back to Sunday morning.
Yeah. Try to watch it. I'd love to hear tomorrow what you think of it, okay? We really put a lot into that. And we were up at 3 o'clock in the morning to do it. Oh, isn't that beautiful? Oh, my God. Most beautiful moment, I told you, is when the Pope does this. Audience able to see? And looks at his ring. That's him right there. Notice how that's him walking out of the crypt of St. Peter's. This probably looks with the patriarchs of the Eastern Rite of the Roman Catholic Church there, to approach the altar to begin the Mass.
We're getting some serious meta commentary here because we're already hearing your original commentary.
Over your own
Yeah. I know this really well. I really would like you to get some of the knowledge that I have about the symbolism of this and the beauty of this. This ceremony is, in some ways, through the entire cathedral, over 2,000 years old. You don't have many ceremonies over 2,000 years. And or what was then would have been called the coronation, being watched in every corner of the globe. That's why it's called the Catholic Church. Catholic is the Latin interpretation for universal. They're now chanting a hymn that goes back to the Roman Empire, that was adapted for the Pope. And if you don't like Gregorian chant, I have no hope for you. What they are doing now at this particular point of the Rege, which is the hymn that chanted, they are invoking every saint imaginable and asking them to help the Pope. Yes, Sancta Bonifice, Boniface, please help him. This is really a grand litany. They have now all abandoned the interior of the largest Catholic, if not Christian church in the world, to go outside where the Mass is going to be celebrated for 200,000 people live, and who knows how many on television. The Pope is now exiting the Vatican, and he is walking right under the Raphael tapestry, which conveys the calling of Peter by Jesus during the miraculous production of the fishes for the impoverished fishermen of Galilee. And you see him holding out his hand and bringing on Peter, and behind him his brother Andrew as his first two apostles.
Laudes Rege conclude, We turn to Jesus as King of Kings and our King, our hope and our glory. And we ask him to hear us. We ask him to pray for all civil leaders. We especially want to greet all those listening to us on EWTN Radio.
That is the tapestry of which I speak, of Raphael, which is
The Roman
there.
Catholic
So as
Church.
the Pope comes out, many of which are also reminded of the Orthodox Church, the first Pontiff Peter, and all of those that were made saints before the 11th century, of course, would be shared by both. For example, Saint Augustine, the founder of the order that the Pope was a member of, was in the 6th century, and he is very much revered. And there again, that's the tapestry of Raphael, representing the calling of Peter. And it is quite significant that his successor will be walking right under it. Of course, like all of the unbelievably beautiful works of art in the Vatican, that's a priceless work of art by one of the greatest painters ever. It is, of course, quite remarkable that the person upon whom this office has been bestowed by the Holy Spirit is a citizen of the United States of America, and a Chicago White Sox fan,
Right.
which makes him quite human.
Right.
But isn't that what Jesus was? Jesus was the Son of God and a human. I don't know if in a lifetime we can comprehend how significant that is. Now we defy that significance every time we devalue the importance of humanity and the sanctity of human life. Of course, the Swiss Guard. That's the very, very back of the Vatican, and that's the very front of it. As the Pope approaches the altar, and the first thing, as any priest does at a high mass,
As the litany of saints continues,
is to bless the altar
Pope
with
Leo
incense.
XIV takes the thurible, and incense is the altar. The incense symbolizing our prayers.
This would be
rising up to
similar
God.
in both a Latin and an Eastern Rite or Orthodox service. Now he is going over and he is incensing
The incense is the image of Our Lady of Good Counsel, as we were saying earlier. He has a deep devotion to Our Lady, especially this image of Our Lady.
He is incensing
comes from the sanctuary
a portrait of Our Lady
of
and
Good Counsel in Genesaret,
her
near
child,
Rome.
Jesus, to show his Marian devotion. Well, I'm watching. Well, haven't you watched that in order to entice you at some time if you haven't seen it? We really do think it will be a very worthwhile endeavor for you to watch the Mass for the inauguration of Pope Paul the 14th. It takes us back thousands of years to a tradition that is the longest really surviving tradition in our Western civilization. and may it survive forever. So let's pray for the people of Israel, for the people of Ukraine, for the people of Iran, for all Christians around the world, particularly those who are undergoing persecution today. And let's pray for the people of the United States, so we can help be the great nation that we are, that can prevail, so that all nations can prevail. God bless America. We'll see you tomorrow night. And go right now. Where are you going to go?
Lindell TV.
To see who?
Dr. Maria Show.
You got it. Promise me.
It's our purpose to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze. We are able to apply our God-given common sense.